If you didn't see the prep video, I want you to pay close attention to this outer borders video. Hey everyone, Cristin here, and we are continuing with our We Whisk You a Merry Christmas quilt, and we're getting so far along. After today, we are actually going to have the entire top done. The entire quilt top will be done. That's so exciting. So we have all 4 rows done, and our inner borders, and our sashings, and our personalizations, and it's just looking great. And I'm so loving seeing everybody's pictures. And there's several that are, this is their first big Kimberbell project. I love that. That's pretty cool. Debbie Larson. There was one other that that I didn't know. Deborah Chow. It's amazing to me. I've seen the things that you do, so it's so cool to see that this is your first big Kimberbell project. How fun, and what a fun one this is. I'm loving this project. So now that we have our pinwheel blocks done, I need to hear what you thought of those, because I found them pretty hard, I'll tell you. At least the last one especially. I really had a hard time with it. But they're done. I'm glad with that. So now we're going to move on to the outer borders. So it's very important. If you didn't watch the prep video, I talked about in the prep video how in the directions, it has us cutting the outer border fabrics to 4 inches times width of fabric. And you can do that. If that's all the fabric you have, or you choose to do that, that's fine. That will work. But I recommend cutting it to 4.5 inches. Each of those 4 strips, so we want 4 strips that are 4.5 inches times width of fabric. So if you look at other quilt projects from Kimberbell, we pretty much always cut the outer borders to 4.5 inches. And that's because our quilting design, the border quilting design, is 4 inches. So we're going to have the 4 inches and then that 1/4 inch seam allowance on each side. So we want a 4.5 inch if we can make it work. If it doesn't work with your fabric, because so one thing is, it says that we need a 1/2 yard of fabric for our outer borders, and I bought a 1/2 yard. So it did work. Mine might be like the tiniest bit smaller than 4.5 inches, but it did work. So you should be able to make it work, but if not, that's okay. You can use a different fabric. You can use the one that you received and just cut it a little bit smaller. So what will happen is we're going to use a 4-inch border design, and if your strips, if your quilting goes over the strip, that's not going to matter. It's not going to matter, because we're going to add the batting on before we add we're going to add it right onto our fabric strip. So when we do that, it doesn't matter, because the excess quilting will run off onto the sides, and it's not going to hold that batting. So like if you did the batting, if you added it after and then you did your quilting, it could be a problem, because then it's going to hold that batting in place, and you will definitely have batting in the seams, which also, not life ending. It's okay if that happens. But the way that we're going to do it, we're going to attach our batting into our fabric strip so that we will have exactly 4 inches of our batting, and we will have that 1/4 inch seam allowance. And so it's not going to matter. If our fabric's a little bit short and our quilting design runs off onto the edge, it will be okay. And I'm going to show you the quilting design in a little bit, and we'll see what size that is and see what works. So don't worry too much. But if you can, I recommend cutting your outer border strips to 4 of them at 4.5 inches times width of fabric. That's the big takeaway for today. If you can make that work, that will be the best. All right, so that is for our outer border. So let me tell you, there are 2 different, and I don't know, I kind of tend to think our sponsor, Your Best Friend's Quilt Shop, they may have gotten this fabric, because I didn't see a substitute for it. So you may have received this one, or you may have received a white of this same design. Either one will work fine. And if you received a substitute, that will work fine as well. It doesn't matter too much. But this is the original, all right? The original is this black one and white one. You got to choose whether you wanted black borders or white borders, totally up to you. I chose the black, so I'm going to go with that. I did back mine with fusible stabilizer. That's totally optional. You are going to quilt them, and the big thing is, if yours are cut a little bit smaller, you don't want the stitching to pull in at all. So backing it with fusible stabilizer is a good idea. But again, Up to you, your quilt, your way. So that's the fabric we're going to do. We're going to have 4.5 inches times width of fabric, 4 strips if you can. Like I said, you can to whatever works for you, or use a different fabric, or shrink down the quilting design. There's lots of different things that you can do, but this is going to be an easy day. I haven't looked yet to see what the sizes are and how many that we'll need. I'll go over that in the software portion of this video. So if you're not using software, I still recommend taking a look at that, just so that you can determine which size will work for you and your hoop size and how many that you need total. All right, so we're going to have 4 strips at 4.5 inches times width of fabric, and then we'll cut them down after assembly. So easy day. We are going to attach them to our pinwheel blocks, and sometimes that can be a little bit stressful, but I'm going to show you a really easy way to get it every single time. It's going to line up just right, perfectly, no problem at all. Adding those corner blocks is so much easier than you think, and I'll show you and you'll be like, oh yeah, that totally works. So we're going to have a good day today with our outer borders, easier than the pinwheel blocks, I promise. So let's go ahead and get started. I left off a key piece of information. So on your quilt, now that you have your inner border sashings, everything sewn together, you want to take your measuring tape and measure the full width of the full length of the quilt, and then the full width of the quilt, and write those down. That is the number of the quilting that you're going to want. So mine is 32.5 inches long and 32.5 inches wide. All right, so I know that I want 32 inches of quilting. Now, don't forget, we're going to have those pinwheel blocks. So you would think like the length is going to be one size and then the width is going to be a different size, but it's not. So we're going to have the 32 inches of quilting, and then also the 32 inches width of quilting, and then we're going to add those pinwheel blocks. And so that extra is what's going to give us our quilting. I hope that makes sense. I know I'm fudging that up a little bit, but let me just tell you, 32 inches of quilting. Measure your quilt though to make sure. And then I'm going to use Border Christmas 3 for my quilting design. That is the one with the gingerbread. It'll be really cute. Border Christmas 3. Make sure that it is the border design. That's really important. I get a lot of questions about, oh, mine doesn't, the tack down stitch goes all the way around. Then you're not using a border. The border has just the left and the right sides of the quilt, the tack down stitches. All right, so Border Christmas 3, that's the one I'm using. You can use any quilting design that you want for your borders, a border design that is 4 inches times the width, the length of the hoop that you're going to use, whatever hoop size. All right, 4 inches. I want 32 inches of quilting, so I'm going to bring you over to the computer and show you how to get that. Hey everyone, so I'm at my computer now and I'm going to show you how to merge the border strips together if you choose to get less hoopings and save on stabilizer and time. So I'm assuming that we're probably going to have about 6 hoopings depending on your hoop size, of course, and I'm going to try out some different things and see what works. So I'm going to open up Embellishment Essentials. It is opening to my 9x14 hoop. I'm going to start with that. I may need my 10x16, but I know a lot of you have the 9x14, so I'm going to see if that will work. I don't know. I think it'll be pretty tight. I think we'll probably need a 10x16, but let's just take a look here. So if you're not on the hoop size you want, come up to this preferences folder, click on the hoop size you want, say okay, and then click on this compass button and click on H for hoop. All right, so I'm going to go to merge stitch file and I'm going to bring in the quilting design. Now don't forget, you need a border design. It's very important. I get a lot of people that ask why it's different, and you need a border design when you're working on the border. So I'm using Border Christmas 3. I'm going to go ahead and open that up, and I think let's start with the biggest one. The 1x14 is the biggest. Oh, not 1, sorry, 4. We need a 4-inch design, so 4x14 right there. I'm going to double click on that. I'm thinking I'll probably end up using the 12, but I want to see what size this is. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on that. And it is actually 14 inches. It's 4.5 by 14. So it's exactly 14 inches. And we want 32 inches of quilting. So either way, you're going to have 3 hoopings. So if you did 14 times 3, we're coming out to 42 inches. That's a whole lot more quilting than we actually need. And if you only did 2, it would be 28, so not enough. So I think we will need to have the 12-inch design. So I'm just giving you information so that you can figure out what works for your hoop. I'm going to go ahead and click delete on this. And I'm going to bring in the 4x12 design and see what size that is and what will work. So let's see, 4-inch, and I want the 12 right there. I'm going to try that one. So the 4x12 is 11 3/4. So 11.75 times 3 is 35.25, and I want 32 inches of quilting. So the excess would just run off onto the end of the stabilizer or onto the end of the fabric strip if our fabric strip is too long, either one, and that will be fine. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the 4-inch by 12. 4x12 is the one I'm using. Isn't that cute, the gingerbread boy? Oh, that's so cute. I love it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start by just moving it over. So I'm using my left arrow key on my keyboard and moving that over to the end as far as I can get it without being over that hoop. That yellow line is representing of your hoop, so make sure not to go over that. All right, and while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and change these colors. So we have, let's see, blue, orange, blue, light orange, and turquoise. So the only one that we actually need to change is this one too. And actually, since we're adding the batting onto the back of our fabric strip, you can just highlight step 1 and step 2. I clicked from the right hand side and dragged over and got number 1 and number 2, and you can click delete, and you don't have to change any of these colors because they're different: blue, light orange, and turquoise. So you wouldn't need to do anything. I'm actually going to change this 1-1 because I'm going to leave these in just to remind those that aren't using software that if you're adding the batting onto the fabric strips, then you'd want to bypass steps 1 and 2. So I'm going to go ahead and click on 1-1, click on the color, and I'm going to change it to dark aqua. Again, you don't need to do that. You can just delete steps 1 and 2 if you're adding the batting onto the fabric strip. All right, so that one is done. I'm going to click outside so nothing is selected. I'm going to click on the entire design, and I'm going to say Control C to copy it, and then Control V like victory to paste a second one. And I'm going to bring it all the way over and see if we have enough room. I don't know. I think it'll be too tight for me. Quite sure. So one thing is, this is a 4.5-inch. I might actually do it. So let me just show you what I'm thinking. So this is a 4.5-inch design. If I click on the design, you can see it's exactly 4.5 inches. And the part that is the 1/2 inch, that extra, is the steps 3 right there, the placement of the fabric strip and the tack down of the fabric strip. Those are the 4.5 inches, and really the inner one on the borders, it's not 4.5, it's 4.25. You can see down here because it starts in a little bit to tack it down. So really, we don't have excess fabric. We're not going to, our fabric, the reason that I generally don't like them to be this close is it stresses me out to have too much overlap of fabric, but we're not going to. Our fabric is going to fit right in that blue placement stitch. That's this one. Let me see. No, not that one. This one. 1-3. That's the placement stitch for our main fabric, and that is the one that is 4.5 inches. So there isn't going to be an overlap of fabric, and if we tack it down or tape in place or whatever works, I think this will be fine. And so I am going to do this. I know a lot of people have a 9x14 hoop, so I'm going to do that. So like I said, this one, the 2 of these, it's 11 3/4 inches long. So we would need 3 hoopings for 1 strip. Wait, that's, oh yeah, for each strip, and we need 4 strips, but we can do 2. that was the thing. I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to do a lot, but I'm doing 2-in-1 hooping. So 3 hooping. So we should have 6 hoopings. So 3 for the first 2 and then 3 for the second 2. So it's not that bad. So we're going to have, well, what did I say? 6 hoopings, and for 4 strips, it'll be quick. These will be quick and easy and really fun. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So right now we have 10 color steps. So I'm going to easily change this to have half that many steps, and we'll just do them all together. So I'm going to go to Utility, Color Sort, and make sure that you have this force applique not chosen and tolerance at 0, and it says it's reduced it by 5 color changes. I'm going to click New View. Always check it. Always check it just to make sure it did what you think it should do. So there is our placement of our batting which, like I said, you're not going to need that one. Tack down of the batting, again, you don't need that. You can delete those first two steps because we're going to add the batting onto our fabric strips. And then our placement for our strips. This one is really important because we're going to line that right up, all right? That's going to be very important. We want that. And then our tack down so that we don't have to worry about when it's running that quilting design, it's going to be tacked in place and held down well. All right, so that's all we need. That is for our 5 color steps for our 2 strips, and we'll just do that for each of them. And I'm going to say File, Save Stitch File As. And I'm going to go to the quilting design that we had it in, and border design, border Christmas 3, embroidery files, block by block, Pez. And I'm going to name this 4 by 12 times 2. All right. Borders, whatever you want it to say. So whatever will help you to remember what it is, where you found it, how to find it again because of where you're saving it. You can also save it directly to a USB stick if your machine uses the USB stick. If you have a Wi-Fi ready machine, you can go to Utility, Send to Solaris XP1, and it will send it directly to your machine. If you don't have that, I do have a tutorial just for how to transfer to a USB stick. So let's go ahead and get started. It's going to be a much easier day than those pinwheels, I promise. It'll take a while because we have 6 hoopings at least, but it'll go pretty quick. are you doing with your goal? So yesterday it's been rainy and icky, and they even say we're supposed to get snow, which I don't think will actually happen, but we'll see. But for like 4 days, it's pretty bad weather. It was actually like 6 days, and now we've got just a few days left. So I'm working out inside, trying to not be outside too much in this icky weather. So I did, let's see, I did a bike ride. I did a bike ride on my Nordic Track iFit bicycle and with iFit trainer Hannah Edens, and it was a really good workout. I was definitely breathing hard, definitely pushing hard. It was a gear push. So what she does, she is able to manipulate the machine. So the machine determines when you're on this iFit Nordic Track bicycle, it's an S22i is the one that I'm on, and it will climb when you see a hill climbing in the picture of the video. Your bike actually hits up, so you're actually climbing. And when she says, all right, I want your cadence high, she brings the resistance down so that you're able to freely move that bicycle wheel so that you can get higher revolutions. So, or what we did yesterday was she would say, I want your cadence to be at like 60, about 60 revolutions per minute, and your cadence is that RPM, revolutions per minute. So when she's telling you I want it at like 60, you know that that's a low cadence, and so that means she's going to have you trudging through like mud is what it feels like. It's like your pedals are like, oh my gosh, it's so heavy, it's so hard, and your muscles are burning. And then you do that for like 90 seconds, and then you get a little break and you get higher cadence to get that lactic acid out of your legs. So it was a really good workout, definitely a hard workout, hard on my legs, and felt really good. I really enjoyed that. I always really enjoy getting my heart rate up and feeling that movement. It's so good for your body and good for your sleep and good for your brain and how you handle things as far as the release of the stress, whatever, dopamine, I don't know what it is, but you definitely get endorphins when you work out, and it just makes everything better. So I did that, and then I did a workout with weights, which I just recently started back up after a long break after my surgery. And we did these, like I had 5-pound weights, and you had to go up and bring it down and then back and up, and it was hard. So like at the time it wasn't too bad, but today I'm like, oh, everything just hurts. So you got a good workout when everything hurts, and it's good. So make sure to take a day off if you're doing something like that. Like I did legs the day before with muscle training and strength training, and then yesterday I did the arms, and so I'm sure today will be another leg one. So it's good to give your body a little rest in between to rebuild those muscles and the torn whatever, everything that is, you're breaking down these muscle fibers, and so then you have to rebuild them back up. So definitely eat your protein and take a day off in between. Don't work the same muscle. So it was a good workout. I really enjoyed it. What are you doing for your goal, and how is it going? And my shirt for today, this is a really, really old sweater. I will add a link in my Amazon store here. It's a great one. I really like it. It's very thin and it's dark, so that everything stands out really well. So look at how fun this is. See this bicycle? I found it on Etsy. It's so cute with all the different colors. Fun design and super easy stitch out. And then on the back, I have Shannon sent me a message saying, oh, you have to get this, and I already had it, so I made sure to stitch it out. It says life is a beautiful ride. It's from OESD. Really pretty design, a big design, so it takes up the entire back of my sweater, but really cute. And then underneath the sweater I have this little floral tank top. It's got like some mesh type stuff, I don't know what you call, organza maybe. Anyway, pretty tank top. I've got that in my Amazon storefront as well. But the sweater, I really recommend the sweater for stitching on. It is a really good one. It's nice and thin, and like I said, the colors just stand out because of the color of the sweater, and it's really comfortable, super comfortable. I really like it. So look for it in my Amazon storefront. Whenever you make a purchase from the link on my Amazon store, then it helps to support the channel and gives you a pretty cool thing to embroider on.